Shabbat Shalom. We all have the sort of stories in our lives that went into making us who we are, and as a rabbi, you have to worry, like if you tell them too soon or too often, like it's going to get old. So I'm telling you a big story from my life, and when I tell it again in a few months, you have to pretend like you haven't heard it. I was in high school in 2001. And I was also as part of being student council president, no big deal. I was also the morning announcement guy, right? Good morning, West High School. The following practices have been canceled. Like that was my role, and so it meant that when the state of Wisconsin passed a law that required at the beginning of every school day, the Pledge of Allegiance or the national anthem to be read aloud or offered or sung. It fell to me to be the sort of person that did that. And this law went into effect at the end of September 2001. It had been on the books before, but of course, in the heightened moment of what that was, it was a very big deal. The only other piece of background you need is that I went to a kindergarten through 8th grade school of about 100 kids, and we never did the Pledge of Allegiance. I didn't know what it was. It wasn't a part of the curriculum or anything. And then in my 3,000 person public school, I was asked on a day without any notice, much like Elon leading Torah service, I was asked, the principal came in and said, okay, you got to do the Pledge of Allegiance now. And I said, okay, do you have the words? Because I just had never done it. So he, pulls out a social studies textbook, like dusts it off, and gets me the words for the Pledge of Allegiance. And I start doing this for all 3,000 kids in my high school. And we get to the moment where there's an addition that was added by a Wisconsin senator, by the way, McCarthy, of under God, right? And I knew that was a controversial thing. I didn't know what it was. I just had something in my head that was like, oh, maybe people add it, you don't, I don't know. So in the minute, again, I had no time to think. What I did was what my synagogue growing up did with the imahot in the Amidah. And that is that if the person leading, they didn't say it, but they paused so that the people who wanted to add the imahot could add it, and the people who didn't have to. So you can see where this is going. That was what I was trying to do, just let people do what they wanted, but what it sounded like to people listening was this, nudnik kid saying one nation with liberty and justice for all. And again, this is, the end of September 2001. It became a huge deal in the city. It became a huge deal in the state. I have the distinction of having Rush Limbaugh call for my expulsion on his radio show because I didn't say under God. And Rush Limbaugh, I don't think, has much control over the Madison Metropolitan School District, but the school board met. And they met to say, what should we do with this kid who didn't say under God in the Pledge of Allegiance? This is not right. What are we going to do? They were talking suspension, what was going to happen. And the principal, who I was close with because I had been the student council president, he spoke at this board meeting on my behalf. And he said, look, let me tell you about Ethan. He's a deeply spiritual guy. He wants to be a rabbi, which now I'm thinking, oh God, why'd you say that? But he believes in religion, he believes in God, he believes in pluralism, and what he was doing was his best to try to create a sort of a welcoming, pluralistic space for people that they could be, right? And he just didn't know any better, and he didn't really understand, and I had to teach him the words to the pledge that morning, and it's okay. And so the school board, I didn't get suspended. I didn't get, I think I had one, I think they did something, but I don't remember what it was. But it was not. Because, now, if in this moment, if people can recall, of anger, of fear, of slogans, of everyone, like there were people who were furious at me and at the school district, and of course with Madison, it's a Madison versus the rest of the state. It was big. In my world, it became not only not such a big deal, right, repercussions, but also a great learning moment for me. Wrote all my college essays for me, and all because the principal knew who I was, took the time to sort of talk to me about it, about why I did what I did and what was happening, and the school board, thank heaven, listened to him, share what I was thinking when I did what I was doing. Because that matters. What someone is intending or thinking while they do something. And the parsha that we read today is that moment for the Torah. Because the Torah is going through and it's giving us all of these laws. You got to do this, you can't do that. Boy, you better not do that. So don't forget to do this. All the actions that we have to do. And we are, in general, as is often said, a religion of action, of what people do, not necessarily what people think. But comes chapter 19 of the book of Leviticus, the holiness code, as Leah pointed out, with all of these rules that now sort of seem to take intent and thought into account. Only you know if you are intentionally defrauding the person next to you or not intentionally defrauding the person next to you. Only you know if you are honoring and revering your parents. Only you know if you are acting with love in your heart or hate in your heart when you rebuke someone. As we go through these, you see really what I'm told the lawyers call mens rea, and I'm getting out in front of my skis here to say, right, that this is, thanks lawyers in the back that I talked to, yeah. Even our legal system takes this into account, right? What one is thinking when one commits a crime is important. And how we treat someone depends on what they're thinking when they do what they're doing. And this gets us into, to some extent, maybe tricky territory of wanting, we don't want to legislate people's thoughts, but the Torah seems actually relatively okay with it. And saying, no, you have to love your fellow as you love yourself. That's going to be hard, but you have to do it. You have to figure out how to do it. And that law comes to teach us this sort of capstone to the holiness code, right? All the ways we have to treat other people, all the things we have to do, all the things we can't do, and ends by saying, V'ahavta l'recha kamocha. You have to love someone as you love yourself. And the rabbis go back and forth on what that means. And they do what rabbis do, and we're thinking, which is they turn it into action. Oh, no. It doesn't mean you have to feel warmth and affection for someone, because how could you mandate feeling warmth and affection for someone, right? There are people in traffic. You can't make people love them, okay? It's got to be about action. But Maimonides says, no, it really is. Love is about belief, feeling, and for Maimonides, it's about thought and knowledge. So he says, what does it mean to love someone? It means to want to know about someone. Right? Sports fans know this intuitively. Right? Your favorite team, you know all the pitchers. All the pitchers for the last 30 years. You know who took the field goal in that one thing that happened that one time with the Eagles. I'm trying, guys. But we show our love by looking for knowledge. And when you fall in love with another person, you want to know everything about them. You want to know why they do what they do. You want to know what their favorite this is, what their favorite that is. You want to know what they're going to do next. You want to know what they think about the things that you love, right? That is how we show love, is seeking knowledge. So when the Torah tells us to love our fellow as we love ourselves, it can't be saying you have to be in love with everyone that you meet, because that's impossible. But it might be saying you should try to know something about everyone that you meet. And if you want others to love you, v'ahavta kamocha, as you would love yourself, you want others to love you, you need to show that to others. And so we ask questions. We're curious. When someone does something that we don't like, we ask them why. We ask them what they were thinking when they did it. Because the intentionality matters. If they did it because it was a mistake, because they were trying their best to be pluralistic in a public school or something like that, right? Then that's going to be treated differently than if they did it because they were angry, because it was intention. There was malice aforethought. That's another one. So when we approach the world around us, a world that, again, very often asks us for bumper stickers and slogans and not paragraphs and explanations, we should turn to the person next to us and say, why are you saying what you're saying? Why are you doing what you're doing? What does that slogan mean to you? Because we might find out that there are people in the world with hate in their hearts, but we also might find out that people are people who want to be loved and love in return, and the knowledge will help us to treat them better. And the Torah actually ends in a way that it only says a few times in the Torah. Why do we have to not defraud others? Why do we have to treat others fairly? Why can't we subvert justice, right? For the rich or for the poor, you're not allowed to do. You can't put a stumbling block in front of the blind, right? This is, again, something that only you know if you're doing it intentionally or not. Why? The last line of the chapter says, so that it go well in the land, so that you have a long life in the land that I, the Lord your God, am giving you. Because God says we can't have a society without this. All of the black and white rules are important and they're good. But without this peace, this internal peace, we can't live together. We can't be together. We can't be a society together. And so Leviticus 19 puts two burdens on us. One, to investigate the intentions of others. When we see things that we don't like in the world, to ask questions. To be curious before we're judgmental, and to try to figure out why this is happening. And two, perhaps harder even than that, is to think of our own intentions and actions. Because this chapter is a call to investigate our internal lives as well. When I want to do something, or yell about something, or be happy about something, or change the world in whatever way, why do I want to do that? Am I approaching this from a place of love or anger? Am I scared? Am I hurt? Am I happy? Am I hopeful? Why do I want to do what I'm doing? Why do I want to say what I'm about to say? Before I say it, let me think about that for a second. The Torah is asking us to say, it says, you shall surely rebuke your fellow. Because of course, we have to give a rebuke to others, and the commentaries say, if we don't rebuke someone when they do something wrong, it's as if we did it. So we need to speak up when we see something. That is a commandment in the Torah, but that same line ends, V'al tiseh alav chet. Don't bear sin on their account, which the rabbis say means don't rebuke them in a way that is improper or unkind, and don't rebuke them out of a place of anger. Rebuke them out of a place of trying to get them to do better, which goes to knowing both their intention and our intention. So we have to try our best to love ourselves and then love others. And as Maimonides says, that means we have to try our best to know ourselves and then try our best to know others. And sometimes that's easy and sometimes that's hard, but without it, we won't have a long life in the land that the Lord is giving us. We won't have a society where we can all come together if we can't be curious about one another and be curious about ourselves. Shabbat Shalom.